The next main character, and this is actually my favorite character in the movie next to the nerd. In the plot where they're looking for the E.T. games, they try to go look for the original designer of the game, Howard Scott Warshaw, and instead they find this man named Dr. Louis Zandor, who is a former scientist for Area 51. Zandor reveals that while working at Area 51, an alien crashed many years ago, and the alien was taken prisoner, and that all the debris from the ship was taken and the government has been trying to use it to build their own ship or the ultimate weapon. And Zandor talks about how the reason that E.T. all the games are buried is because Zandor, not agreeing with how the government was going about things, left, and he went into the video game industry, where turns out Zandor was Howard Scott Warshaw's assistant in making the E.T. Atari game. And the game itself apparently has the blueprints to Area 51 hidden in them. And Zandor has been hiding for the past several decades to avoid the government, and after seeing the nerd, he believes that he is the one that can reveal the truth and stop what the evil government's doing. Zandor, he's a fun, very lovable character, played by an actor named Time Winters. He plays this character as he has the long hair, balding. He's as far as being the disheveled, paranoid nut, at least at first glance, John Malkovich ain't got nothing on this motherfucker. And his introduction scene is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. The nerd and Cooper and Mandy go to Zandor's place, and to make sure that they are the right people, he has them go through this little maze in his home where everything, like they have to cross a river, and the river looks animated, like something you'd see in an 80s video game. And the nerd is able to get them across by jumping in the air and hitting that invisible 1-up that you'd see in Mario, many other games. And Dr. Zandor says, "Only a true gamer would know to hit the 1-up." And there's this is also one of the funniest parts, all within the first 15 minutes of meeting Zandor. He tells them he has no real entertainment in the house other than video games because he doesn't want people finding him. So the nerd and Mandy play this game, and I am not as familiar with video games as I am with movies, so don't judge me too much if I don't know the name of this game. But yeah, they plug it into a big boxy TV with the knobs, and they basically run up and down, running. And as they play running, they just are like, oh yeah, go faster, come on, faster, faster, faster. And yeah, it's pretty obvious where this is going. Cooper and Zandor hear it and they think they're having sex. So Zandor, while playing a game or watching an old movie, I guess, he turns down the volume, but they're, oh yeah, cheers of joy as they play, become a little too freaky, so he turns the volume back up, thinking that, okay, this sex is too crazy even for me. And a very cool fact is that The role of Dr. Louis Zandor was originally written for the actual Howard Scott Warshaw himself. Rolfe contacted him and asked him if he would be interested in being in the movie. And the thing is, Howard Scott Warshaw, since the failure of the E.T. Atari game, he has left the gaming industry and he has gone on to become a psychotherapist. And the character of Louis Zandor is a pretty crazy nut. And Howard Scott Warshaw said he didn't like the idea of his patients. Apparently he takes it seriously I hope he takes it seriously to a certain degree. He didn't like the idea of his patients seeing this movie and possibly being freaked out by it. And so he said he wanted to be in the movie, but he asked that it be a cameo. So at the Atari landfill, all the AVGN's fans show up and have what is basically nerd stock. Yeah, they got hippie chicks, people with AVGN merchandise, signs. And when the nerd goes to try and tell the fans that the E.T. game is not there and that it's all bullshit, who should show up but Howard Scott Warshaw. And he says that what Zandor says is true, and he says he's tired of keeping the lies a secret. But he comes off, and Warshaw says he likes the way he comes off, and seems pretty cool about the fact that he is blamed for making the worst game ever. But hey, he only had 5 weeks, and anyone who is not a cunt will be understandable of that. And his cameo, it's very cool, and can't deny that awesome that he would do this, especially given his new profession. The main villain in this movie, who is a general named General Darkon, played by Stephen Mendal, and this general, he's a very over-the-top, crazy character. He speaks like no one else would. And remember, the nerd's humor is very absurd, almost like Monty Python meets Troma. And I'll get back to the general in a sec, but I gotta mention this. There's a cameo in this movie from Lloyd Kaufman, the president of Troma Films. You remember my Battle of Love's Return review. And Lloyd Kaufman, turns out Lloyd is a fan of the Angry Video Game Nerd show, and for the 111th episode, James Rolfe reviewed the Toxic Crusaders video games, based on the cartoon that itself was based on the Toxic Avenger movie. And who did he get to appear next to him and play the game with him? Lloyd fucking Kaufman. And Rolfe did a 30-minute interview with Kaufman, and it's available on Cinemassacre. And Lloyd Kaufman agreed to be in this movie, apparently. It's very brief, but it's funny, like, wow, Uncle Lloyd. And the nerd's humor itself has a feel, because a lot of his humor is very gross, and it has that feel of someone who really loves Troma. And I mentioned how I'm kind of mixed on gross-out humor, but the way James Rolfe does it, I feel it makes the little kid in me kind of smirk a bit. And there's something else I wanted to mention when I talked about the web show that I forgot to mention. I have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and I've really struggled with it to get better, and I've really done well. I mean, I still have issues, but my OCD is not really something I focus on these days when it comes to talking about my problems with my psychologist. And in the past, something that really would get to me would be gross out humor scenes in movies and going to real dirty areas in public, especially public bathrooms. But I can watch these scenes in movies now, like the dog semen scene in Van Wilder, and my psychologist says it's a good place to show how far I've come and how well I've done in the past few years of being able to handle some things. But back to this character, General Darkon. He's a crazy fucker. A running joke is that he keeps getting injured over and over again. Like, he doesn't have any legs. He gets around by steering this mini tank that the upper half of his body is attached to. And it's... in his first 10 minutes, he ends up blowing his arm off. And he doesn't react or talk like any normal person does. And he's just so over the top. And he's like, he has this style of acting that usually fails horribly, where someone talks unrealistically, or he talks like he's constipated. I call it constipated acting, where someone always acting. They're always acting so mad, like, oh, what's going on? What's happening? I'm confused. Or they speak too fast, like, I once knew a guy with that kind of car back in the day. It was those times. But here in this style, and knowing the style that James Rolfe does, it works. And there's this funny chase scene where the general and his second in command, the other main villain in the movie, this woman soldier named McButter. Yes. Played by Helena Barrett, who is mostly known as a stunt woman. She was a stunt woman for the Transformers Age of Extinction movie. And they have this good chase scene where they go through a town and they're in a Hummer chasing the nerd in his nerd-mobile, which has a painted picture of the nerd and the E.T. Atari alien and the words Cockburn underneath. And as they chase them, the Hummer keeps hitting a bunch of crates and boxes that are just scattered everywhere for no reason. You know, action movies, car hits shit that is there for no fucking reason. And the general's like, what the hell are all these fucking boxes doing here? And then there's this great, this is probably one of the most clever gags in the whole movie. As they're chasing the nerd, they see two idiots moving a giant plate of glass, and yeah, this old joke. So the general's like, just drive! So, McButter, yeah, the bitch floors it, and instead of crashing through the glass remains intact, and the Hummer smashes up. That's a new one. And that is a new take on this old joke, and it's very well done. I thought it just worked very well. I'm saying very well a lot. Stephen Mendel and Helena Barrett, they're both very good as the villains. McButter is a really tight-ass bitch, and she has a funny bit where Mandy tells her, don't get your panties in a wad, and McButter grabs her and says, "I'm not wearing any panties." And Cooper's like, "Hot?" Stupid, very little kiddish, but yeah, makes the kid and all of us smirk. And McButter's final scene, where she has her following to her death, and when she falls to her death, which is into a water fountain in Las Vegas, before she hits the water, she just disappears. This is a tribute to the main villain's death in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 from 1994. And General Dark Onward, his best scene where he's not being an insane asshole is when he's told who the angry video game nerd is, when he's thought he's been some spy or something. And he's shown one of the nerd's early videos, and he's like, "He's pretty funny!" And then they show him one of Cooper's attempts at an online review, which is a pretty crude taking a dump joke. It's not too far off from some jokes that me and some other guys would make when we were 13. Yeah. And the General's reaction to seeing Cooper after saying, "The nerd is funny," is, with Cooper, Nah, he sucks." And as for the last two cast members in this film, the nerd actually gets into Area 51 in the latter half of the movie, and he discovers the alien is real. And the alien, which when you see it, okay, the special effects in this movie are cheap as shit, but that's part of the appeal, like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And James Rolfe said that was his intent from the beginning, to make it look cheesy, campy, cheap, because he likes that stuff. And the alien is pretty cool. It's like a three-dimensional version of what he thinks the alien from the E.T. game would look like. And not the best. Like, it's a puppet, obviously, but it's a funny puppet. And the alien is actually voiced by Robbie Wrist. Who's Robbie Wrist? He was the voice of Michelangelo in the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. Fuck yeah. Yeah, Robbie Wrist, he's a fan of the AVGN, and he really loved James Rolfe's movie review as the angry video game nerd of Ninja Turtles 3. And he said to Rolfe that if he ever wanted to use him, he would be available. And when he made this movie, Robbie Wrist came on board to voice the alien. And the character of the alien, although just a puppet being voiced by an actor, pretty likable, pretty funny, kind of cute when you see him with the nerd. Like, they both together, it's kind of a cute image. And there's a scene like where the nerd and the alien are in a fighter jet, and he asks, "Do you know how to fly this thing?" And the nerd's like, "You ever see me play Top Gun? Not a pretty sight." And the only other cast member to mention is the nerd's boss in the beginning, who, yeah, the nerd apparently is a clerk in a game store that's called Game Cops. Yeah. And the boss is this crazy, obnoxious, looks like he's losing his brain. Looks like he has syphilis. A guy played by a guy named Eddie Pepitone. And the character's named Mr. Swan, and it's a confusing character. Like, he's funny, but nothing he says makes any fucking sense. And according to James Rolfe, Eddie Pepitone ad-libbed all of his lines, and the nerd himself is confused in their one scene together. So, I've seen better, but not the worst. Now that I've gone through the whole cast, the next thing I'm going to talk about are the cameos in this movie. Next to everyone I've mentioned, other internet celebrities such as Pat Contry, Pat the NES Punk, Kyle Justin, the composer for the Angry Video Game Nerd theme song, and Mike Matei, James's partner at Cinemassacre, appear during the Atari landfill scene. Sean Keegan, the movie's producer, he is a tourist at the Grand Canyon, in a scene at the Grand Canyon, or a shot in front of a green screen then added later to look as if they're at the Grand Canyon. Once again, cheesy effects. Whitney Moore plays a woman about to be married at the chapel in Vegas. And who's Whitney Moore? She's the star of the cult bad film Birdemic. Kevin Finn, the co-director, appears as an engineer at Area 51. And Nathan Barnett, who's another online personality, is also at the Atari landfill. And Beer McCreary, who is the movie's composer, appears during a scene where the nerd has a nightmare where a carnival is handing out E.T. Atari games, and McCreary plays an army of apparently nerd-obsessed zombies. And this is funny because McCreary is a composer of many TV shows, including The Walking Dead, and also Battlestar Galactica and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a shit ton of many more shows. And of course, the cameo that we were all hoping for, the one we just couldn't wait for, Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic. I gotta take up the card to explain his cameo. Doug Walker has a cameo in this movie, and it's pretty brief, like it barely amounts to 8 seconds. And I guess we all wish he could have had a bigger part, but Doug was in a movie that got released on the big screen, so still awesome, and when he appears, you're like, yeah! Or you want to go, ah! Which is not far off from the noise Doug makes in his scene. At the end, when the alien wants to get home, the alien and the nerd are told by Dr. Zandor that the metal from the alien ship, which could help him get home, was put into the E.T. games as part of the circuits. So the alien summons all the games and they start shooting up out of the landfill and being pulled away from people's homes. And we cut to one home and the game being taken away, and there's Doug sitting in a chair with the controller, and seeing it gone, he just screams, "Ah!" and falls over. So brief, yet so fucking kick-ass bitch awesome. I read that James Rolfe stopped by Chicago on his way back to Philadelphia from California, and while stopping there, Doug filmed his cameo for the AVGN movie, and James, in return, filmed a cameo for Doug's movie that he was making at the time, the 4th year anniversary special for thatguywiththeglasses.com/channel awesome. To boldly flee. And still wish Doug could have had a bigger role, but still I'll take it. And because James, he has a pretty big cameo in To Boldly Flee. So yeah, that's all the cameos in the movie, and I guess I only really have 2 more things to talk about. The only real thing in this movie that I think I'd have to complain about, like, to a huge degree, are the special effects. Yes, I know the special effects are meant to be campy, and I love some of them, but towards the end, a lot of mixture of models, blue screen are used, and it's done very quickly. It's done almost Michael Bay style or Expendables 3 style. Actually, Michael Bay's action scenes are a million times better to make out than the chaos that happens at the end of the AVGN movie. It's very cut very quickly, and I guess I'm mixed because I know what he's going for, but at the same time, because I love cheap effects, and I love practical effects, but at the same time, I think James Rolfe might have made them a little too cheap. Because, like, there's a scene of a tank going into the Grand Canyon, and it's obvious that the wheels are not moving, it's being pulled by string. And I love models, but that was just too cheap for me, and with all the blue screen and all the fast-pacedness of it, it was giving me a bit of a headache. It's just what happened. It's my only real complaint next to the whole ending with the Mandy character. But other than the special effects during the final battle of this movie, I'd say that Angry Video Game Nerd the movie, despite the silly title, which is silly even for this, I'd say it's a very solid film in the world of independent filmmaking, online reviewing, the internet, video games, very old video games. It's very inspirational, and the little documentary called An Inside Look at the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, I fully recommend it, and this film may have gotten bad reviews from a lot of people, but not from me. I give it 8.7 out of 10. And since it's a film that's gotten generally a lot of mixed to negative reviews, I think it is fucking awesome. I think it is great. And it's another film that I love so much more than The Dark Knight. But if you don't like it, that's cool. I don't like The Dark Knight, so people cannot like this movie. Written and directed by Kevin Finn and James Rolfe. Produced by Sean Keegan. A Cinemassacre production in association with Skinny Ugly Pilgrim. Yes, that's a company. Pretty funny. I have a former tutor who said that hearing about some of these guys, especially Doug Walker, and where he's at with the Nostalgia Critic in Chicago with his warehouse and his team of actors, he didn't see as much of the nerd as he did the critic, but as corny as it sounds, and probably isn't that corny, but kind of shows the American dream that can still happen. And as many may have guessed, the nerd does eventually review the original E.T. game. And it's a pretty awesome review. And it shows that, well, it may be frustrating. Is it really the worst game ever made? Who knows? I may play it someday, but I'll need to find an Atari 2600 console, a TV it works with, and a controller. And I'll need to get a few other games. I said I hate video games, but looking at these Atari games being played makes me think about trying it. Hell, I read a comic book, which was the first type of literacy that I've read in years because I love Atop the Fourth Wall. So I believe I've said everything I possibly could about Angry Video Game Nerd the movie. I love it, and I recommend everybody should check out the Nerd's show first before checking out the movie. Otherwise, it's gonna confuse you. But if you like the show, you'll love the movie. And on that, I will end this video by saying that earlier this year in January, I actually donated some money to an Indiegogo campaign, to Louis Lovehog's campaign to raise over $40,000 for the budget for the Atop the Fourth Wall movie, which he has been working on for several months this year, and it's another reason I've decided to talk about this. And also, I plan to talk about another movie based on a web series. And my plan is, when the Atop the Fourth Wall movie comes out in October, I will watch it. I donated about $24, and apparently that was enough to get me my name put in the end credits as a thank you, and I can't wait to see that. And after October, it'll be my very first review in November. So yeah, that's my big plan for the better half of the second half of 2015, and I've really come a long way this year. I mean, I know this may not be much, but personally I've come a long way for myself, and I hope people who watch me all the way through and watch good chunks of me, like what I've done, and yeah, I admit, I talk a lot.
Oh, shit! Faster! Come on, faster! Faster! Yeah, faster! Oh, shit. God, I normally don't do it on the pad. Oh. Oh. Okay.
What do we have here?
This is the guy that's been causing you all the trouble, sir. He's an internet superstar. They call him the angry video game nerd.
Up, up, down, down. Speed up, speed down.
He's funny, I like him.
Sir, then there's his friend. They call him the super rad video game dude.
Have you ever taken a really long dump and then you sit on the toilet going, God dang, what did I eat? That's the feeling that you get after playing this game. This is super rad video game, dude.
Not so much. He sucks.
Motherfucker, come on! Fuck! And how come they can pass over a hole and you can't? Yeah, go ahead, pass over the hole again. Yeah, fuck you. I'm gonna pass over your mom's hole. Even if you find the pieces, it's worth Jack and shit. And Jack left town. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Or like a turd in a mudslide. Got the call zone, but oh fuck, I wasted all my energy. Maybe I'll find the phone pieces first. Okay, got the phone pieces, but oh shit, the FBI guy took them away. It's like a big brother who wants to give you noogie and a wedgie at the same time. Guess what? You can't call home unless there's nobody on the screen. Why does E.T. need so much privacy? Does he need to tug on his little green beam or something?